feel free to reach out to me. And I'll let our speaker just jump in and take off.
Hi there. My name is Fiza. I am a student here at Greenville Tech. This is, I wish I could name what year it was, how long I've been going here because I've been coming here on and off since 2003. Um, Currently, I am in the Human Services program. Um, and then to get my associates, and then I plan to transfer out to get my bachelor's. But my goal is to become a substance abuse counselor because I have the life experience of substance abuse, so I figured you need the education to kind of back it up a little bit. So I'm trying to think where to start. Well, the first time I ever used anything, of course, like anybody else, was marijuana. I believe I was 14 years old. My younger brother introduced it to me. He was 2 years younger than me, and it was like the greatest thing ever. And I ate like 5 grilled cheese sandwiches, and was like, wow. Um, And then just, continued smoking all throughout high school, drinking, whatever. Dabbled a little bit with, LSD and shrooms here and there. But like even though I liked that relaxing feeling and everything, that sedated feeling, it always made me feel paranoid at the same time. Like I felt like I couldn't be myself, or if I said something um that I thought was funny, other people would think it was stupid. I struggle a lot with insecurity issues, which I'll get into that as well. But fast forward a little bit. So I didn't finish high school, unfortunately. Oh, there's no lights.
All right.
So I didn't finish high school. I dropped out the last month of my junior year, but because I had already taken English, I was able to go back for my senior year. Went there for about a month or two. I was like, screw this, the people that I was friends with at the time, um, just kind of turned against me. And I've always had trouble in school making friends. I don't know if it has to do with my name or what, but anyway, so I dropped out, moved to Atlanta for a little while. This is back in the days of AOL, so met a guy like off of, in one of the chat rooms, and would go stay out there in Atlanta with him for a bit. Um, Obviously it didn't work out, and I came back to Greenville and start, going back to work and everything, and we meet this guy and we start dating, and um, I mean, you would never expect in a million years looking at him that he did any hard drugs. I mean, before that, I had dabbled a little bit of cocaine. I had, definitely taken ecstasy, because back in early 2000s and stuff like that, that was when like raves were big in Greenville and everything. Um, but it was just a little bit here and there as far as stimulants go that I mess with. So he was the one, and he became my boyfriend, but he introduced me to methamphetamine, and it was freaking great. I could. It was cheaper than cocaine, and I could, stay up longer. So about 8 months of that, and then of course, like any relationship that has substance abuse in it, it didn't last. So again, I go back to work, and the work environment I was in, it was a sports bar, and um, of course, way before COVID and everything, like when things could stay open forever, like this place was open till 5 in the morning, so it was definitely the party spot. Um, and all kind of people came in there, and I guess just being the sociable person that I was at the time, like things were easy for me to get. Like a lot of dealers came in there too, so they would like give me stuff on the side and just whatever. Um, So I would say that I got back on coke pretty hard for a couple years. And then about 2003, I met my, who's now my ex-husband, but we're still pretty close and everything. We consider him family. But I finally met somebody who looked, good on paper. And I'm like, oh yeah, my parents are gonna love this guy. Like he has a normal 9 to 5 job. He maybe drinks a few beers on the weekend. Definitely doesn't do any of the hard stuff, doesn't smoke cigarettes, and just complete straight edge guy. So we started dating, and I wanted to be able to be, I guess, good for this person too, because the type of life they're living, I don't need to bring my bullshit to them. So I just, I started cutting back on, the drug use, and I would still drink though. Because like I said, I was working at a sports bar at the time, but I wouldn't be there like late, after work drinking with the other bartenders and servers because I wanted to get home to my boyfriend. So let's see. Come come 2009, we got married. Um, and I think the reason why we got married is because everybody else was doing it, and not that I didn't love the guy, but it just started fizzling out after a few years. And so one night he comes to me and just out of nowhere, and when he goes to bed, like he goes to bed, he doesn't even get up to pee. It's so weird. But he comes out of nowhere, and I'm like thinking he's doesn't feel well. I want to make him some hot tea. We need to have a talk. I want a divorce. And I mean, I was like, excuse me. So my first question was, who the hell is she? And number two, I just started like just drinking more and more after that. It was like on the weekends I would go out to like, the local bars that had music and stuff. And then, started happening during the week, and just like all the time I was drunk. A friend of mine that I had met at a party, and we're still friends. Um, she she always had a Coke on her, so I'd get a little bump, whatever. One night at a Halloween party that I invited her to, we go in the bathroom to do a bump, and um, well, we didn't have any. I didn't know where my keys. I didn't know where anything was, so I'm just like, well, let me find something. So I go and get like a wine key, and I open it, and I like go take the scoop and everything to like snort it, and as soon as that hit like my nasal cavity, I'm like, this is not cocaine. I mean, because my head was on fire. It was methamphetamine. And that was back what, like 2015, and just ever since, from then until last year, that's pretty much been my life. Like it started off kind of slow. I do a couple lines with her on the weekend when I go over to her place and have some drinks. But then so I met this guy who was a friend of one of her male friends, and instantly drawn to this guy. Um, Complete red flags, but I didn't know this at the time, And like I said, somebody who's struggled with insecurity issues all their life, and just like any kind of attention, I was blind to the other stuff. Extremely, extremely good looking guy. 6.5 foot tall. I love tall men, and came from a good family. But what really got me, it was his backstory, and that was when he was 14 years old. His mother committed suicide by gun to the head. So just the empathetic person I am, my heart just instantly wanted to take care of him, like fix him, like, whatever was hurting him, I wanted to take it away. And I didn't realize it at the time, but he was definitely a ladies' man. And he also had addictions, plural. So he was a regular methamphetamine user. He was definitely an opiate user, but he later switched to Suboxone because I wasn't going to help him get the pain medication. But I didn't realize how, even when he didn't get his Suboxone, how he would react. And then he had, like I said, other addictions such as, and I know some people roll their eyes when I say this, especially guys, but when I say like sexual porn stuff, it's like on a whole other level. I'm talking about files, videos of girls he's been with, and just all kind of stuff. So like, I was always the one who would supply stuff. And when me and my ex-husband separated, which was about 2017, me and my last relationship, we got our own place. And um, a lot of my problem is and the reason why I am a 44-year-old child is because my parents have spoiled me ever since I can remember. Definitely financial supportive. I mean, if I anytime I've been in jail, I can just pick up the phone just like that. Emotional support is a whole other thing, and that's where my drug use really began. If trying to go to my mom or trying to go to my dad to talk about something, oh, you're so sensitive, get over it, move on. My mom used to compare me to like a girl across the street, why can't you be more like her, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of insecurity issues there. But let's see, where was I? So when I started suspecting things with him and everything, because I mean, it's like, dang, we're getting high and everything, like you don't want to go, you know, you're staring at your phone all the time, kind of weird. Um, and then it was like just a few months of us starting to like fool around and be in a quote unquote relationship. Um, Felt odd one day, and I was like, "Well, let me take a pregnancy test." And I didn't suspect anything because I've never been able to get pregnant. I've even been told that I would need medical assistance, get pregnant because I had PCOS, hypothyroidism, all this stuff. But lo and behold, I was pregnant. And it was such a traumatic time because I did not have that typical pregnancy that you see most women having, like and with their other half, and they're all on Facebook looking all like happy, and they're like, um ultrasound pictures and all that stuff. And no, I barely even ate because I was always on the run every day, like scrambling to get money together, like $20, just $20 to go find him, um, a Suboxone pill so he wouldn't go through withdrawals. And, your hormones are, yeah, I know all the women know your hormones are out of whack when you're pregnant. Um, and I'm very ashamed to admit this, but when I found out I was pregnant, I, I did, I did stop. Of course I stopped, but I didn't stay stopped. And as much as I wanted to, like, just somebody else being there in front of me always, and it I don't mean to sound like I'm blaming him because it's definitely my fault. I completely should have got rid of the asshole because, you know, like I allowed this. I allowed him to stay there and, get what he wanted. And, because like I said, I also have other issues. I have codependency issues. So I'm feeling like if I do this for him, if I do that, I definitely had like boundary issues. So, this fool knew that he could get whatever he wanted out of me. And um I just, it was just hard to like not, not continue like staying sober. And trying to think what I was about to say. But geez, I'm so sorry. But yeah, so trying to get rid of him, like, that was a lot of like insecurities too I was dealing with, and just things from my past. And like I just felt like, no, I don't want my daughter to turn out like me. I mean, my father and I have a good relationship now, but there was a time period where he was kind of distant when my stepmother was alive, and just other things that go there. And I used to, wonder, does my dad love me? Does am I not good enough to my dad? Because he has other set of children, and I used to want to be a doctor, but he thought, sending me to like Texas A&M where he went was like, oh, you don't want to go to a party school, just go there to Tech there in town. And I'm like, hey, you want me to be a doctor? And you go to Tech, okay. But his other daughter, Texas A&M, Baylor, blah blah blah. So, I just have always had these questions when it comes to my father. Um, but believe it or not, between my mother and father, and my mom is who raised me, by the way, but my dad and Muslim man, by the way, from another country, is the one who supports my recovery. It has been supporting my recovery for the past almost year and a half now. But anyway, so I didn't want my daughter to turn out like me and wonder where her dad is, and like as she grows up, starts having daddy issues like I do. going after these men, like, and I still have a problem with this, like even recent stuff. But I'm attracted to like the worst guys. I mean, they're beautiful out here, and they seem charming at first, and then then I realize, there's just something, not right, and then it just progresses, and I've always like, but stayed, or maybe he'll change, blah blah blah, and do whatever, to please him, and basically in the end get walked over and used. And in this last time around, um, I've been in plenty of bad relationships, but the last one is what seriously traumatized me. So continued using and everything, but I stopped again probably about a month before my daughter was born. Um, even even at the hospital, I'm freaking out because I didn't know this stuff, and other people are telling me like, oh, they're gonna check her, her stools and whatever. They're gonna see that that you've been using, blah blah blah. I'm even at the hospital, like sneaking and throwing away her diapers. I mean, that's how like crazy I was. But I was able to go home with her, and so let's see, probably from that time until uh, till she was maybe 6 months old, because I did stop using again. Me and my ex were living with his parents for a moment, but then he wanted to come back home, and of course, that's when the drug use started again, and the fights and and it wasn't just like mental and emotional abuse. It started being physical and all this stuff. I mean, as of right now, I have a cracked spine because he pushed me down when I was pregnant, because I have a degenerative bone disease, and it's like very fragile right there. But anyway, um, so 2018, he gets locked up because unpaid child support. He has other children, quite a few, and so I had nowhere to go. Because we had done been evicted from the apartment where we were staying at, because it just nobody wants to hear fighting all the time. Um, so I go and stay with his parents. Um, Somebody contacted DSS. I had already just started probation. So come January 2019, is when I first started the Phoenix Center. First out of many trips. So um I was about to, I was in, IOP, which is like 3 days, 3 hours at a time. And I was about to step down like for 2 days a week, and then be done. Right before I was about to complete, my ex gets out of jail. He was there for 4 months. 10 days out of jail, after I put about 4 grand on his books and just whatever he needed, as usual, like an idiot, he dumps me. And I'm like, fuck. So I did what the only thing that I've always known what to do when, you know, I have any kind of heartbreak or have any kind of stress or whatever. And his parents happened to be out of town that weekend for some marriage retreat with the church, and I called up an old friend dealer of mine and got high and got crazy high. At the same time, like, once I got high and then started coming down, I'm like, you've got your classes next week. They can randomly drug test you at any time. I already was making up a story in my head, like, oh, I hit a vape box that had some meth in it, like, so I still, knew that I needed help, because there's no, everybody knows when you've been using a long time and then you try to get sober, and then you slip. Oh, I'm just going to do it this one time, it's fine. That's what we tell ourselves. And some people are able to do that. That's great. Not me. Not me. Um, So I knew that I would just continue, because I did go back out again and pick up, and thank God at the time the DSS caseworker I had was on my side, and she wanted to help me, and she was rooting for me because she understood that life. Her mother was an addict. So um so come, let's see, June 2019, the Phoenix Center has a rehab for pregnant women and mothers, with children. And so I went to go stay at Serenity Place. I was there for 3 months. Graduated September 2019. Um, get out, and I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But again, not trying to blame anybody, but so my ex's parents wanted me to go like pick him up from like somewhere in Spartanburg to bring him to the house to like, mow the grass. And it just took him mentioning like, getting high, and I'm like on my phone, you know. And so from there I started using again, and basically within 1 month I was kicked out of their house. And here I have my daughter, and I really don't know what to do. My mom does stay here in Greenville. However, she's a hoarder, and I don't mean like got some stuff laying here and there. I mean she needs to be on a TV show. So I did not want my child in that kind of environment. And plus, just a toxic relationship that my mother and I have had all my life, and it's definitely progressed. So anyway, lo and behold, my ex is getting kicked out of, one of the two chicks he was hooking up with. Surprise, surprise. So he calls me up and tell me he doesn't have a place to stay, pick him up. At the same time, we're like, well, you know, we need to figure out something, but we don't want, our child in the car. Because if it comes down to where we have to sleep overnight in the car, we don't want that happening. So, he has an aunt on his mother's side that, is great family and loves Gabby. That's her name, Gabby. But asked if we could drop her off there for like a week or two, did that. Next thing I know, I'm getting a call from his stepmother and father. They're notifying me because his my ex's aunt and uncle went out of town for Thanksgiving, and they didn't want to take her because already being so young and just moving everywhere. So they took her back over to his parents where we just were kicked out from. And but anyway, so right after Thanksgiving, I get a call from them letting me know that I can't come pick up Gabby. DSS has came by there because somebody called them letting them know that I was living in the car with my child, smoking meth around my child, and I was hanging around the father who she wasn't allowed to be around, which was true in the first case, but I completed successfully. So it was just kind of weird where this information was coming from, and I just kind of had my suspicions it was probably somebody in the family because with that last bit of information. But anyway, so at that moment, I relapsed, and that like from that moment, everything got worse and worse and worse and spiraled out. Because the mentality in my head was like, "Are you serious? Like, I just got done with rehab. I just got done getting this like DSS off my back. The case is closed successfully." And then here I'm under scrutiny again, and I'm just like, "Fuck!" Like, what's the point? I'm like, I try so freaking hard. What is the point? Like all my life, to this person, you know, not making you feel like you're good enough. Your mother comparing you to this person. Your sister's able to go to like medical school and all this, but you got to go to tech school for that. Guys like looking in their have other options, and I'm just what So I had it. I just. But at the same time, I fought for her, of course. But what kind of fight was it when I'm still using? And my whole problem was, I never got rid of him. We ended up moving into my mom's. Now we move into my mom's. And it was just hell the whole time. And my mom being kind of naive to things, and just again our relationship, and just able to, like I said, naive, being able to get away with things. It was nonstop using, like nonstop. Um, and how we would get like our stuff. I mean, like we would go boost at stores. Some don't know what that means. That means stealing, but we would like get we would steal, like, for example, tons and tons of, like, Tide laundry pods, like, stick a 99-cent UPC on the back, and I get a bunch of those and sell them to, go down to the neighborhoods in Berea that's a lot, mostly Latino, and sell to them so they can sell it on the weekend at the flea markets. I had an idea what we were doing, but, they didn't say anything. It was just, it was just business, and we're making money, they're making money. Um Let's see, fast forward a little bit more. So my mom got tired of us staying there. She was always making up stuff about my ex. We were literally, or I was literally removed by 3 police when I came by there one day to grab some stuff, and I hear 3 Greenville County in the living room, and long story short, my mom had filed for emergency eviction, and basically I was trespassing, so I had 5 minutes to grab whatever or they were taking me to jail. So from then on, my ex and I were staying at hotels and everything, and he continued his, like, sneaky phone stuff. Well, then one day, he, like, took off and was, like, gone for a week, and I was lost. So and also, like, a sickening feeling just because, just the worry and anxiety of, like, what he was probably doing. But then it was a different kind of sickness, so I'm like, "Okay, don't feel too anxious as I thought." I felt that pregnancy sickness again. So I go and get a test and I'm pregnant again. And well, he happens to show back up, and of course, a million excuses. Um, so again, here's a situation, and this time around, like, I was happy to be, pregnant. I was happy to have another child because at this point, I had already lost custody of my daughter to his cousins, and my next step from there, like, I was worried they were going to file for, adoption and have my rights completely stripped and gone, which they did. So here I'm facing that. I'm pregnant. He's still running around doing whatever, using. Um, And I don't know how many times during that period I came to the Phoenix Center trying to quit. I mean, he even made a joke one day. He thought it was funny that, like, "Oh, you should make, after you write out your intake application, why don't you just make copies of it? That way you don't have to sit there and fill out the whole thing. You'll have a nice stack to, like, work with." And I'm just like, "Man, like, really?" So, so when my dad found out I was, pregnant again, of course, he didn't have the best words and anything, um, but it was out of love. It's hard to explain. I guess just how my dad was raised and where he comes from. Whereas when my mom says things like that, it's to intentionally hurt me. But so he searched around, and was able to find a house for rent. Very nice, like, one of those older mill homes, but in down White Horse in Berea, West Washington, horrible area, especially for people, for addicts. So, but great house, 3 bedroom, and it was my idea in my head. This is perfect family looking home, and you know, nest and do my son's room, and then work on getting Gabby back, and then she can have the other bedroom, and then typical freaking family life because that I've never had at all in my life. And, I just that's what I envisioned. So my son was born March 20th of 2022. And all kind of family of the house I hadn't seen in a while. Um my uncle Don, he's my mom's twin brother, cousins, just all kind of people, and which is great, but at the same time, I was trying to, like, recover and rest and heal because when I had my son, I had him by cesarean section. I didn't take home the pain medication that they had prescribed me because after having my son and being in the hospital for a week and everything recovering, and of course, my ex was gone all the freaking time. Like right after he's born, I'm like, I'm hungry. Go get me a biscuit from Bojangles. He is gone until like the next night. So, but at some point, I think it was my third day in, and out of nowhere, the nurses wanted to drug test me. Now we know that anytime you have a child, they drug test you on admission. This was them drug testing me again, and the next day TSS bust through the door and said, "Miss Bodie, you're positive for fentanyl." I said, "Excuse me? No, the hell I ain't." I'm like, "No, what are you talking about?" And of course, looking back now, my ex gave the best performance. He's like, "Bullshit." And like, just goes and has a cigarette and doesn't come back till like early in the morning. If that ain't guilt, I don't know what the hell is. But anyway, so I refused that pain medicine when they sent me home, and I'm like, "Oh, you think I'm an opiate junkie? No, I'm a speed junkie. Get it right." So, like, I'm at home, trying to take care of this newborn, feed him every 2, 3 hours, change him, blah blah blah. Your family running around, everybody's like cooking and barbecuing. My mom and I are like, it's just crazy. So, let's see. I remember it very well. So about a month later, I was feeding my son. This would be April 25th, 2022. I'm feeding him. I'm nodding off, and I've been running errands all day, and got some um freezer lasagna to like feed all of us. Bathed them, and I was ready to go to sleep. But you know, trying to be somewhat of a decent mom. I'm feeding him and everything, and but I'm nodding off, and my fear was like I would fall asleep and like for a brief moment he's going to like slip out of my hands, hardwood floors. So I asked my ex, I was like, Jordan, can you watch him? I'm really tired. I'm afraid I'm gonna drop him. He's like, yeah, I got it. And although he's got, a litter of other children, I know, he knows how to take care of them, but still be that motherly thing. I'm like, well, make sure you burp and make sure you change them, blah, blah, blah. I got it, I got it. So at the time, this is before I had cataract surgery, which that's another story. But I've always had, poor vision all my life. But I could see across the room the clock and the red digital numbers. And I remember it saying 12:46 a.m. I remember that. I turned over, I fell asleep. When I woke up, I was facing the same position, like facing the same, like the wall. And I'm like, gosh, I must have been really out of it. And at the same time, like there was just this weird feeling, like something was off. Something was way off. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I've always been a very intuitive person, and it's deep even more since being sober. But so I sit up and I notice that it's dawn. Like, there's just a little bit of sun creeping through. Um, I turn around and there's my son. Jordan's not there, but there's my son. He was no longer swaddled for some reason, and he was a little guy. So he must have really fought to get out of it, or I don't even know. But I look at him, and like I said, everything just felt off, and I noticed there was some kind of like dark, like fluid or something around his mouth. So I go to touch him, and my baby's he was cold as he could be. And I don't know what that was around his mouth, but it was like sticky. And I'm just thinking to myself, no, oh my God, no, 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 no. Please breathe. Oh my God, no, no, no. And I go to pick him up. Let me tell you, a soul that is no longer in a body is 10 times heavier than when was inside of it. Because that little baby felt like a sack of flour. And I go running through the house screaming that he's not breathing. And then there goes that piece of shit popping out of like my son's bedroom. And nothing's registering to me at this point other than my son is dead and he's not breathing. And and when he pops his head out and he's like, "Well, what's going on?" And I scream it to him and he's like, "Call 911." And I'm like, "You fucking call 911. Are you serious? I got a child here." So I'm trying to figure out where my phone is, but he has it somehow. He finds it. 911 gets there. They were there like golly, they were there in like 2 minutes. I tried to perform CPR. Long story short, normally, investigation anytime there's a death, but they found paraphernalia in the drawer. The only paraphernalia that I knew of, it would be later that I would find out there was more that he was hiding that I had no idea of, and that I just found out a couple months ago. And this ties into the fentanyl story when I was in the hospital. So anyway, when they found like, glass pipe, a bowl, fillet bowl, that they were like, okay, you guys gotta get out on the porch. We search. Were in there for hours, searching, dusting, taking pictures, whatever. Um, and I remember because they told me that I was at least would have a moment with my son to say goodbye. No, I didn't get that. The last I saw of him was his foot peeping out under a sheet from the one of the techs carrying him over to the coroner van. Um, After that, just waiting to hear like autopsy results and everything. Um, but they did the initial autopsy 48 hours. And released him to the funeral home, so he can be cremated and everything. But waited and waited for like these results, never got them. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? you know so I'm like, that kind of stuff doesn't get lost in paperwork. So fast forward a little bit, we him and I still continue fighting, and it got worse and worse, him running off, staying gone all the time, blah blah blah. um come February of 2023, uh, it got to the point where, well, I mean, he had already put hands on me before, but this time he clocked me so hard with one of those floating wall shelves and gashed my finger wide open with a broken chalet bowl. I mean, there was blood everywhere. The police thought I did something to him. They're like, "There's no way that's from your finger," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is." Um, because he was like, I was trying to grab at him because he was hiding something from me, and I couldn't tell what was in his hand. Because, like I said, I ended up having cataracts because, well, it has nothing to do with my age. So guess what it was from? Trauma to the eyes from, yeah. So I ended up going to the emergency room, this and that. And at the same time, a week later, so we're getting evicted once again because nobody wants to see, police at the house all the time. Nobody wants to hear yelling all the time. Nobody wants crazy people beside them. So he ends up getting arrested, gets out. Fast forward a little bit, I have a court date myself from an old charge in 2020 from shoplifting in Spartanburg County. After they see my history, they want to pop a drug test on me. And I'm like, well, that's awesome. I just got done smoking a ball right before court like an idiot. I spent, I was sentenced 3 months in Spartanburg County Jail, and I had never served time before. Like I said, I get bailed out by my parents, but this time I served time for frozen casserole from Walmart that I stole. But I was able to get out in 2 months, for, being an inmate worker. Come fall 2023, I started Greenville Tech, and started in the human services program. And, they say once you even have the thought in your mind of using, you've already relapsed, and that's true. Because honestly, the only reason why I was sober is because I was forced to be sober, being locked up. So it was already like there in my mind. Well, by this time after I got out, my ex is staying at his parents' place, which is kind of odd, because they never welcomed him there before until I guess at that time when I was getting out. Because I don't know, it's just a weird situation because he was still using, and it's always been a thing. You're not coming home unless you stop. So when he went his way, and like I said, my ex husband, close to the family, good person. I had nowhere to go, so staying at his place on his couch. Um, my ex, as usual, started showing the same patterns, blah blah blah. I'm trying to go to school and all this stuff and focus on my, studies, not being here in a long time. And just making up all these excuses in my head why I need to like using it. So I did. Um, and naturally, I would start missing a class or missing an assignment. Him and I's like relationship, or as far as arguing, got worse. And because definitely now not having to be with me and everything. He just pretended to still somewhat care because he was having that upcoming court date from the criminal domestic violence case from February. So he had to keep up appearances for a moment. After realizing that he, had an offer made to him and everything, probation, blah, 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 this asshole hooked up with me on Thanksgiving 2023. And from there, again, more spiraling. I basically at this point wasn't coming to school anymore. Um, my ex knows my drug history, but I've never done it in front of him, or methamphetamine I haven't, and I never would. He will never see me with a pipe in my mouth or like a straw in my nose, nothing, just because the level of respect I have for him. So, and even at this point, he knew how I felt, and he was just like, whatever, go ahead and use. I know you're going to anyway. But like I said, I didn't want him seeing it. So I decided to go stay in a motel. And money with that, I basically took my mom's checkbook. It was cashing checks out to me. And I would say from about January to April. Yeah, that's a lot of checks, huh? I'm such an asshole. Um, I stayed locked in a hotel, pumping as much meth in me as I could because I could care less if I woke up. I could care less if it was laced with fentanyl. I didn't care anymore, did not care. I didn't have my children. I lost Gabby. My son died. This piece of shit used me for 7 years. And just like, I'm just tired. Like, what's the point? I don't care anymore. And one of the days when I had been up for a while and, just completely cracked out of my mind, um, something just something just spoke to me. And I'm not gonna get into it because I don't, I know everybody has different, views about, what they believe, what they don't believe. So I'm not trying to, push God down your throat or anything. But I know that's who it was. I know that's who it was. And was like, not today. Today's not the day. And you're gonna get up. And something in me, just like I said, that force. So I picked up my phone, and it's kind of funny. So I was thinking about that guy out in like California that used to do the passages commercials, the like fancy like resort rehabs for the super uber rich. I literally Googled in my phone, um, bougie rehabs. Of course, it comes up with all these different places, out west and everything, and in California, out in Colorado, blah blah blah. But then I saw this place in right here in South Carolina, a little bit outside of Charleston, called Hammocks on the Edisto. Is Southern Antebellum home, 15 beds, no phones, because that's what messed me up a lot too when I was at Serenity. When I got that phone in the evening, it was like Facebook. What's Jordan doing? What's Jordan doing? Yeah, like it. Yeah, I didn't get the treatment like I should have because I messed up. I wasn't fully there. So, I send them my information. They get back with me. I fly out. I flew out from Greenville April 25th, 2024 to rehab. And this idiot here was like using all the way up. Like I got to rehab. I mean, I had like half a ball in my mouth ready to swallow going through security. Doing this on the plane, doing this in the airport. And so many people are like, "Oh, you're so like spoiled. Why didn't you drive down? Like Charleston's 3 hours away. You took a flight that was 3 hours because you got to go up to Charlotte and then back down to Charleston." I'm like, "Do you realize like what an addict does? Like, especially a meth head, I would stop 10 times and never make it there in time to do my intake." So I get there April 25th. Um, the ladies picked me up, and I was so full. When it said Hammocks on the Edisto, I think I'm going to Edisto Beach. No, this is Edisto by the Edisto River out in Jonesboro, which is, a little bit outside of Charleston. Very beautiful, very peaceful. So April 25th, 2024 was my last day of use. My sobriety date is April 26th, 2024. And I specifically chose that day because, like I said, on April 26th, 2022, I woke up to my nightmare. My son left in bed with me dead. So I wanted to add some positivity to the day and not always see it as a dark day, even though it will always hurt my heart. I wanted to give like something positive that day, a silver lining, something, and maybe an apology to him somehow. So I was in hammocks for a month. I completed successfully, and they thought I should continue my recovery. Just the counselor hearing my backstory, especially with my mom, worried about me coming back to Greenville, even if I was to go to a recovery place, because they were looking at Oxford houses and everything, and they were just like, no, because you're gonna be worried about your mom, this and that, who just um it was starting to be pretty obvious that she had Alzheimer's dementia, and stubborn as she is, and hates me, doesn't hate me, but you know what I mean. Um, she didn't want to accept what she had, but at the same time, here I'm trying to worry about taking care of her. Their worry was that I would come home and that I would relapse. So they were like, "There's this great place out in Florence, South Carolina, called the Owl's Nest." And at first, I didn't want to go because I saw on there that it was like co-ed. I was like, men and women? Okay. No, I obviously have, other than drugs, I have another issue. um, and that's men. And not necessarily in a sex type way, but more like, that feeling of, oh, somebody wanting me, somebody needing me, not feeling alone because I also have abandonment issues. But, I trusted their opinion, and I went, and as soon as I pulled up in that place, I was on the phone with my brother, and I'm like, "Man, Nick," I said, "I am home." Basically, the place is like a camp for adults, it even looks like Camp Crystal Lake without Jason in the lake. But, these people, I don't even know how to describe them, they're all recovered addicts, with several years under their belt, and the way they tell their stories and the way they run their classes and everything and break down the AA book, which I've always thought was like, like some cult stuff, and but the way they broke it down and like, what the disease actually is and how it's like this two-part illness, the mental and the physical. And then, one thing I never got from anywhere else, and I feel, in my opinion, why it's never worked for me is because the third thing that I never got from any place was the spiritual. And you can look at that any kind of way. You can look at it being God, you can look at it being nature, you can look at it being energy, frequency, whatever. Just because when you have that, because getting sober isn't about like stop use like not using anymore. It's easy to quit, but it's hard to stay quit. And so all this bullshit I've been taught before, and no offense to the places I've been. I mean, I love them, and but like just these coping skills that might work for some people, but it didn't for me. So that spiritual, once I had that in me, and realizing my purpose and realizing I am, worth something, and all these things, where I'm like paying more attention to my underlying issues that I struggle with, that I still do a little bit, but and all these things that I've wanted to believe in my head for years, these lies about me, that I feel like, like that have been ingrained in my mind, that aren't true. So having a new outlook on myself and having that, just being spiritually grounded, that makes me not want to pick up, because I know who I am. I know my purpose. So, like I said, the people at Owl's Nest, beautiful, great, great, great people. Like, and I thought I had a crazy past. They got some stories, let me tell you, but they tell it so passionately, so passionately. A lot of them have left and opened up their own place now called Lotus Recovery, which is amazing. I'm so happy for them. But so I left there in July and started Greenville Tech once again, fall semester 2024. Since that time, I have made all A's. I have a scholarship. I'm on the dean's list. Um, I'm back at Collegiate Recovery, which I tried to come to once, like a few years ago, and met Miss Oliver one time, and beautiful woman. But I'm like, I can't be in front of these people all high and everything. No, love y'all, but no. So, a few weeks ago, Michael messaged me, and I didn't realize who he was. I'm like, who the heck is this texting me, man? But, just the fact that somebody, gave a shit to reach out and, like, check on me, and, that means a lot, because I've got people in my life that know me forever, that know exactly what I've been doing and, like, what I've struggled with, and don't, you know I'm lucky to hear from my mom. If I do, it's, through my dad or brother, because she's complaining about something about me. So, for strangers to, like, give a damn, that's awesome. And so, like I said, I'm in the human services program. It made always, during the fall, A's for spring. Made my first B this past summer, because I did a Master class, which is taking a semester in 1 month of public speaking. Which the only reason why I messed up is because, as you can tell, I'm not the best with, like, um, I guess, giving a speech. And I just got done with abnormal psychology, which I also made a B. So here I am about to start the fall, and I'm taking on 4 classes this time. Trying to get into work study, where, um, hopefully I'll get approved for that, because, volunteer work I was going to be doing for Collegiate Recovery, who was going to be taking care of my peer support training. Well, now I'm going to be kind of combining that, where the work that I'm doing, or the volunteer work that I'm doing, is actually for work study, and I'm still getting the peer support training. So, and that's just as of recent. That's as of last week. That's been put into the works. So that's it. That's it. Did I go overboard? Oh, it's only been an hour, so good. I did it right on time.
Just turn it off.
Okay.